Page 92. Sentence 1. Hashem says to Moshe, "Come with me to Pharaoh, because I've hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, so that I can bring my signs in his midst, my plagues in his midst," number 1. And number 2, so you should tell your children and grandchildren that which I played with the Egyptians and the signs that I brought, and you will know that there's God. And the sentence doesn't read, I'm bringing all these miracles, for what purpose? That you should know there's God. No. You should tell your children, and then you'll know there's God. Doesn't make any sense. I'm bringing this so you should know there's God. This is what it should say, and then deliver the message to your children. It doesn't say that. It says deliver the message to your children, and then you'll know there's God. If you say, I guess, anything, enough time you start believing it yourself. That's what the sentence sounds like. Keep on telling the story and you'll believe it yourself. Why not say it correctly? I'm bringing all these miracles so that you should, right? I'm bringing all these miracles so you will know there's God, and I want you to give the message to your children. That is what it should say. It doesn't say that. All these miracles, and you should tell over your children, and then you'll know there's God. It doesn't resonate. Okay, let's go now to sentence page 94. Moshe is bringing a message from God, send my people, let my people go. And Pharaoh asked the question in sentence 8. Go serve God. Who do you want to leave Egypt? Who do you want to go away? They're going away now for 3 days. And Moshe said, with our youngsters and our elders, we'll go with our daughters and our sons and our daughters, with our sheep, cattle, we'll go. Because this is a holiday with God. And he answers him, this is the way it should be. God will be with you if you send them, but your children, you shouldn't take, because it's dangerous to send your children. Therefore, don't do this in sentence 11. Only the men should go. They should serve God, because that's what you really want anyway, to serve God. So what are you asking for the children? You don't want that. Remember, they're going out for 3 days. They're coming back in 3 days. He's saying something that makes a lot of sense. Bringing the sacrifices to God is done by the men. The children aren't going to do anything there anyway. And what you're doing is creating a lot of problems with traveling with the children. Fathers are going away for 3 days, and you'll come back, which is what Moshe said we were going to do anyway. So what do you need? And it's dangerous for the children. He saw his astrological signs. It doesn't make sense. What do you need? What you really want is the adults, the men. And he throws them out from Pharaoh. Needs a big explanation. What is Moshe starting to ask for things he doesn't really need? He doesn't need that. Then it's just like to control somebody. It's not a genuine request. Like, how far can I push you? He got what he wanted, and all of a sudden he starts upping the ante. That's not the way you deal with people. You want something, it's a legitimate need, you want to serve God. Don't start upping the ante. You don't need the animals. You don't need the children. Let the children stay here. You're coming back anyway, and therefore, that's what you want. Okay. Now let's go to next week's Parsha. 2 weeks around. Actually, 3 weeks around. It's a Mishpatim. One page. This is a description of what happened at Mount Sinai. page 312. This is a description of the event of when the Jewish people were camped around Mount Sinai, about to receive the Torah. There's the following description. Actually, if you go to the bottom of page 311, Moshe wrote the words of Hashem. He wrote a historical document from the beginning, retelling the story of creation all the way to here in time. He built an altar. This is at Mount Sinai. And he put 12 stones there, reflecting the 12 tribes. And then it says, he sent the youngsters, and they brought sacrifices to the Almighty. They brought peace offerings and burnt offerings to the Almighty. A very interesting recitation. The story is an introduction to Mount Sinai. The children brought sacrifices to the Almighty. So the Gemara tells us that Megillah, a very interesting thing. King Talmai was a king of Egypt when they were dividing up Alexander the Great's domain. Egypt was Ptolemy, and he asked them to please, I'd like to see a translation of the Bible. He wanted to take a look at the Bible. I guess it's subversive, So this is your holy book. I want you to translate it in Greek so I can understand it. And God made an incredible miracle that he would have some problems. If he could translate the Bible, he would have some problems. And therefore, some of the passages are problematic. And the Almighty made an incredible miracle that in the translation, all 70 scholars were in 70 separate, as he says, 72 scholars that were in separate cubicles, all rendered the translation in Greek absolutely the same. And one of his problematic sentences was like this. The sentence says, he sent the youngsters of the Jewish people. And they changed it to the word zatute. They sent the very important people. In the Greek translation, they didn't read they sent the children, they sent the dignitaries. And Rashi says, because otherwise Ptolemy will ask a question, what's going on over here? You send the children? You should send the dignitaries to perform the religious service there. The question is like this. There's a lot of passages in the Torah that could be problematic. This doesn't sound like a major problem to Ptolemy, a major problem to Judaism. This is a subversive document. Do you know that 2,000 years ago, sounds like such a ridiculous question that you even have to address that. What kind of possible attack could he view this a subversive, anti-government, and it makes no sense. He's giving a historical fact of what happened 2,000 years ago. In the document, the way it reads now, I just read the sentence. Oh, we got to take this out. God has to make a miracle of this because, you could hear many other stories that could create a lot more problem. Do this to idolatry, do this to that. There's a lot of problems. This doesn't sound to be a problem at all. 2,000 years ago, when the Jews celebrated receiving the Torah, the children brought the sacrifice. Wow, that's really something. It might be a question that you may not want to embarrass yourself, but that's not a question you would deal with Talmei HaMelech. And obviously, whatever the question is, there has to be an answer to that question, because it does say they sent the children. Ptolemy's going to ask a question. How do you do this? We don't understand why he's asked the question, but it's a question. So what's our answer to that question? If we have an answer, why can't we explain that to him too? What is the question? And what is our answer to the question? We know that, as we wrote in the document, in the translation, a word that could mean that it means the very important people. The very important people. So we say the very important people are the kids. But when Ptolemy reads it, how does he read the very important people? The dignitaries went. Okay. Whatever his question is, but we know it doesn't say that. We know it says the children. So what's our answer to the question, and why can't we explain this answer to him? The whole thing makes no sense. This is such a problematic passage, and there must be some real problem. So we've changed the document. We wrote it in a way that his understanding of important means the older dignitaries, and we understand means the children. Why? But it says the children. So what is our answer to the question? If there's something wrong with sending the children disrespectful of God or whatever it is, so what's the answer here? What's our answer to that question? The truth is the kids went, not the dignitaries. And we call them the dignitaries in the translation. He misreads it, and we know, but if it's wrong that should be the children, why did the children go? So we have three questions here, and they're all very compelling questions. The whole story of the Exodus is in order that we should give over a message, and then we'll start believing in God. We'll start knowing God. Very funny. The second thing is, Moshe started just upping the ante for things that he's just trying to control Pharaoh, not in terms of it's not a legitimate negotiation. What you need, you ask for. Otherwise, you're just bullying him, and it doesn't make any real sense for that. So why did he need, and why should he cause everybody so much trouble, and the family should go for 3 days? If the kids go, means the women are going to go. Everybody's going to go, right? Everybody's going to go. Men will go away for 3 days, do it, and then they'll come back. And lastly, why is it such a problem in the Torah? A subversive document, because people 2,000 years ago at Mount Sinai, the Jews were using the children. And if, in fact, that is a problem, what's our answer to that question? I'd like to begin by a very fascinating insight here on us as a people. Talmud tells a very interesting story. Not a story, but an interesting explanation of the Jewish law. Every 7 years, we gather together as a nation. On the second day of Sukkot, all the Jews that are in Israel come up to the temple, and the king reads parts of the book of Deuteronomy. And the Talmud says, why does everybody have to gather? It's men, women, children. Well, the men come to study. The women, they come to listen, not to absorb the messages. I guess the men to learn means they're trying to create new messages from what they hear. What do you bring the children from? Well, there's a Talmud's question. Well, we want to give a reward for the parents of bringing them. It is such an anti-Torah message. We make things hard to give you reward. God doesn't do that. God does things that is important for us to do. There's nothing that God wants to just make things hard for us. If something that's important and it's hard, he'll give it to you. But if it's not important, you don't get reward because something is hard. God wants us to do things that are meaningful. There's no meaning here. The children, I guess it's like kids today. They don't learn, they don't listen. So this is a regular kid. So what are they doing over there? We get reward for bringing them. It doesn't make sense. God doesn't, it violates the whole understanding of the Torah, where God gives us something important to do. Even if it's difficult, we do it. But he doesn't just make it difficult. I mean, God could have said something else to give us. You have to hop up on 1 foot to Jerusalem. Or it's a potato race to Jerusalem. I mean, there's 10 ways of making it hard. There's no meaning for the kids are getting nothing out of this experience. That's what the Talmud says. So what do you mean? Because I'm going to get a reward. It means it's hard for me to bring them. If it's hard for me to bring them, then why does God tell me to bring them? To give me reward. That means he's telling me to do something that doesn't have any value. It's just the fact that it's hard. He's testing my loyalty. He's want to see whether I want to be hard. There's other things hard. Why impose that on the children? Impose it on himself. But secondly, it violates a very important principle of the Torah. Torah is not to make things hard. It's to do things that are proper, meaningful, even if they're hard. But it has to be a valuable thing. There has to be some intrinsic value. The Talmudists telling us this. Yes, we get reward. Why? What do the children do? We don't need the children here. The children don't belong here. They get nothing out of the experience. The answer is we get something out of the experience when we see our children there. What do we get out? We get out of the experiences that the goal is continuity of the Jewish people. It's not just a religious experience. We need sense of continuity. A religious experience doesn't require continuity for my religious experience. Does not require continuity. As long as I have to be continued. If I'm a religious person, I have to live my life this way. But saying a whole different thing. I have to make sure my kids are going to go in the same way. Why? Why? Because Judaism is not a religion. Judaism is a state. It's a nation. It's not a religion. It's not just a religion. In fact, that's the minor part, the religious experience. The definition is the Jewish people, we are a nation. It's not, our identity is we are members of the same nation. It's not, I spoke about what our vision of our nation is. That's not relevant now, just trying to understand. We are a nation. We're not a religion. We're a nation. And nation needs continuity. In fact, that mitzvah that you go once in 7 years is called what? Hakel, Kehillah, community. That's the name of that mitzvah. If you don't bring your children, it's not a community that's going. Who's going? It's a religious experience. We are creating a community. That we bring our children to understand we are a Jewish community. We're a nation. We're not just a religion. The Torah identifies itself. You may not know this, but what does the Torah call the day that we receive the Torah? We're so used to calling it Kabbalah Satorah, the day we receive the Torah. That's not the way the Torah defines itself about 4 or 5 times in the Torah. How does the Torah describe? No, that's not the way the Torah. That's what's happened there. But how does the Torah describe the whole event? Yom HaKohol. That's the way the Torah says 4 or 5 times. It was the day in which we became a community. Which means Kabbalah Satorah was we were not accepting religion. What were we accepting? Is the day we became a community. The Torah is the rules and regulation for community. It's not for religious experience. It's a community. This is how you build a community. Religion is part of a community, but it has much broader responsibility. It has economic responsibilities for each other, right? How to run a state. The Torah is not only a religious experience. The Torah is the handbook, the rules and regulations of creating a state. It's a big mistake to think it's a religious. I'm saying the Torah defined itself. It's one thing. I'm saying something. I'm not saying the Torah says it was Yom HaKohol, the day we became a community. When the Torah looks back, so you know what happened on that day? That was the day you became a community. The Kohol is a community. A community is a nation that has a sense of continuity. That's what Maimon Har Sinai is. Every 7 years, we reenact the fact that we're a community. That's the mitzvah of Hakel. In fact, if you read the Rambam, it's clear that the whole message, these 7 years, the king is actually the language of the Rambam. I don't know where he gets it from, but he must get it from what I'm saying, that the Torah's definition of itself, of the day of Sinai was becoming a community. The mitzvah in the Torah is called Hakel, and therefore he says the king, when he reads the Sefer from the Sefer Torah to the entire people, he's like Moshe. It's like you're hearing from Moshe Mipi Agvur. It means, what are we reenacting? We're reenacting the event of Sinai. Every 7 years we reenact the event of Sinai to tell us we are not a religion, we are a community, and that's why the children have to be there. The definition of a community is continuity. There has to be the next a community. A state has continuity. The state takes care of it. A community means we're responsible for each other in every single way. That's what the Torah is. It's a very myopic view of the Torah, which many of us think it's a religious experience. That's not what the Torah is. It's much transcends religious experience. It actually defines us as a community. There's a sense of responsibility for each other. It's not a family. It's actually a community. All rules and regulations of how much you can charge, whether you can, everything. Financial responsibility, setting up in every city. In fact, the Rambam tells us a fact. He says that there was never a city among the Jewish people that did not have a kupa shel tzedakah, a fund to take care of the people. And we have actually another fund. We have a tamchui, a fund to take care of all the wayfarers. Anybody on the route, they have food. That's the Jewish community. He's not telling you, he didn't do a sociological study. He says that is the definition. You're not a Jewish community if you don't have that. That means when a Jew comes from somewhere else, he has house, a place to stay, a place to sleep. A Jewish community means takes care of people that shouldn't be poor people, or people are poor, but at least we're supporting them. That's the definition of a Jewish community. We are a community, we're a state, we have responsibility for each other, and of course we have international responsibility. It goes beyond today's discussion. We created a Jewish state. This idea that it's just a religion it wouldn't have survived as a religion. A religion is a personal choice. My kids aren't interested in following my religion. That's a personal choice. I like Buddhism. I like something else different. That's not my message to my children. My message to children, we're a state. And you're the future of our state. It's a whole different feeling, and a lot of us, we make choices. Okay. Like my grandfather, Zichron Livracha, told me a story that he just coming from, he's first in Poland, and Israel, and he came, and first Shabbos he was there, he went to one of the elders of the community in Philadelphia. I mean, a very well-respected scholar who was a shochet there. And he comes to him from South Philly and meets him Shabbos. And all of a sudden, there's a big car, I guess it was a Packard, I don't know what it was, in the 20s, pulls up in front of the house. The kid comes out, gives his father a hug. He's like turning white. And the man understood. He told him the following, I'll say it in Yiddish. I think it's word for word he's saying. Reb Schari, that was the name of my grandfather. You don't understand. In America, he knew he was shocked. This was a kid driving up in front of his father's house. In America, all we need is to make Edel a Goyim. As long as they're good people, they don't matter, how they behave. Yeah, Edel, they should be decent. Edel means decent, refined. Goyim is also an accomplishment. It was probably true, but it wasn't an objective. It was probably just a statement of facts on the ground. That's what religion is. A religion. We're not a religion. We are a nation. We are a state. We have to have that understanding. That's the message of Hakel. And there I bring my children for myself to internalize it's not a religion. Every 7 years I remind myself, relive the experience. We are a nation. That is a very big threat to a king. A king can tolerate other religions, but he doesn't want a group of sovereign states. We're a state. He doesn't want a sovereign state. That's a threat to him. He is very upset with this. And therefore, it was the aristocrats, they're the more important, I guess means the people sit on the eastern wall. They're the ones who brought these sacrifices. That was a religious thing we had, because they're the most important in a religion is who is the most important people. They're the ones that do in a state, what's most important is continuity, and the children are most important. It's about a future. The children are actually what's most important. That is our definition of what we're doing. We're creating a state. They are, everything we're doing is for them. It's not about, I'm not doing for myself. What I'm doing for myself is religion. But what I have to ensure is my children are going to turn out like this. And they're the most important. And he would have read it absolutely right. What do you mean they sent the children? Whoa, their estate? That's a threat to him. And he would have clamped down on the Jewish people. It's a very subversive document, the Torah. It's undermining the state. He's the sovereign, and then the Jews say they're a sovereign. They're a sovereign state. They don't have land now, okay, but that's easily get rid of talmidim. We have land. No, the Torah is a document that we're a nation. It's not a document of a religion. It's a document that we're a nation. Reenacting Maim and Har Sinai is we're a nation.
Isn't that what Pharaoh was recognizing?
What?
Isn't that what Pharaoh was recognizing? Yahweh Israel?
That's what that's what Parashat refuses to recognize. That's what I'm coming back to. So this is what he doesn't want. What told me is a threat. I mean, the Talmud says God had to make an unbelievable miracle. What difference does it make who did the religious observance? It doesn't make a difference. It makes a huge difference. If the children are the ones that are doing, you couldn't imagine on giving shishi on Yom Kippur or Chassan Torah to a 10-year-old, right? You just wouldn't do that, right? You wouldn't do that. It just so in the religion you can't do that. But in the creation of a state, that's what everything we do is about. This is continuity. That's the whole focus. We need to have continuity. A nation, the definition of a nation is continuity. That's why we need to be a nation too. Therefore, that's what we learn from the story of Talmud Melech. That's what Pharaoh is now fighting with Moshe about. You don't need the children. Pharaoh doesn't even want to conceive that it's anything more than a religious revival for 3 days out in the desert. That's all you want is a religious revival. Send them in. It's a religious revival. That's who's going to bring the sacrifices. You want a religious revival? Good. I'll let you go. And that's all you want. It's dangerous for the kids. He's probably right. It is dangerous for the kids. But with us, it's not a religious revival. We want everybody there, so we have to, the 3 days is for us to internalize that we are creating a nation. Our land is waiting for us in Israel. We'll be getting there eventually, but we're creating a nation. So Pharaohs and Moshe are really fighting a very, very important fight over here. The fight is, are we a nation or are we just a religion? And Pharaoh is not willing to concede. In fact, he doesn't want to lose his own constituency. They're my people. I'm the sovereign. I'm a very liberal sovereign. I allow freedom of religion, which not many states did either. But I'm not going to allow a state within a state. So you don't want a state. I'm not giving you permission. And not only am I not giving you permission, I can't even conceive that anyone's crazy enough to want a state. I'm the sovereign here. Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, we want to go out. The children, we want to declare that we're a nation. We're waiting to get into our state, our land. That now begins the beginning of the sentence. I'm bringing all these miracles against Egypt. Right? I'm bringing all these miracles. And you know what you do? You have to tell over these miracles to your children and grandchildren. And then you will know there's God. You're not supposed to tell them over miracles. What you have to tell them over is that we are a nation. Only when the children understand that they are the goal, that they are what we are, everything was done so that we have a message for them, then they understand that continuity is the goal, and then you are a God. We're not a religion, we're a nation. And our question was, I'm telling all these things, you'll know there's God, and then you give the message to your children. No. All these things is that there should be children. Everything is that there should be children. There's a future. We're a nation. Once you do it this way, then you will have a relationship with God. Otherwise, it's just a religious experience. The real relationship with God is be connected to Him as a nation. It's a very, very important message for ourselves, too. It's not a religion. Judaism isn't a religion. Judaism isn't a Jewish nation. A Jewish nation obviously has to have a vision of a land. Even now, when we're outsiders, you need a vision of a land. You're not a religion. Not only a religion. In fact, the ultimate religion is to have the proper type of functioning state. And therefore the whole, and I feel that way about the yeshiva too. I had the kindergarten here this week. And I told them this is the happiest, every class visits me from the elementary school once a year. I talk to them and learn. And this week, I told them something which was the first time I realized about this is the group I like the best. Even though some of them are unbelievable. I ask the 8-year-olds questions, I repeat them to the students. I probably repeated a lot of the messages there. The kids are unbelievable, pure minds, and if you develop them to think, they're unbelievable. You know why they're the happiest? Because everything we do here is only about you. I'm not trying to educate people for school, it's wonderful students here, trying to educate them too. But the goal of educating them is so there should be grandchildren, that there should be continuity. That is everything we do is so that there should be a future. In fact, we give the message that everything is for the future too. Therefore, you are really what. That's why I was telling the truth. You are really what everything we do in all the schools is about. We are teaching people so that you will be educated, and you will have you're our future. You're the raison d'etre, the justification for everything we do. And I really felt that way. I didn't understand myself why I liked the kids so much. They don't say the most brilliant, they're nice kids and smart kids, but everything we do is so that they should be Jews. Judaism is not a present religion. It's certainly not. Some people think it's a past religion. It's a future religion because it's not a religion. It's a future. It's creating continuity. It's creating a state. Everybody should have a great Shabbos. What?
The beginning of Shmos, you already said Yam B'nai Yisrael. You recognize they're a state, and that's why you want to stop the continuity by throwing them into Yoreh.
I think he recognized they want to be a state, and he
He reacted as that way.
yeah, he crushed them.